that is this conference is actually dedicated to Gina, her daughter. Gina died on November the 2nd, 2012. And a lot of the circumstances around her leaving this planet or this dimension are somewhat embroiled in the ET issue. Marie may choose not to go into that, but I just want you to know that this is dedicated to Gina. So I'm going to say thank you very much to Marie. I'm going to just load her presentation. Bear with us a second, folks.
I'm really happy to be able to pass on the information I have and talk about my experiences. So thank you very much for all listening. I'm going to go through things briefly, my experiences, because obviously there's not enough time trying to squeeze everything, condense everything into an hour. It's really difficult, and I think we're all having the same problem. So I have got several videos online on the Ammach site and Megawatts 1066. So I'll go through things briefly, and if you haven't seen them already, they are on there, so you can find out more. I'll just go through things briefly. So the first thing I'm going to go through is Ireland, my early years. The first time I remember experiences, I was age 3. I saw beings coming out of the wall constantly screaming at night, and I'd be hysterical. My parents didn't believe me, basically. I was telling people this. I was telling my family. But, you know, you're told, don't be silly, go to bed, there's nothing there. But I was seeing beings they were the beings with the long blonde hair and dressed in blue. There was 5 of them. There was always 5 of them, 4 men and 1 woman. And I had various experiences with those, but never had any other information, just that they were coming through the wall to get me. I always said, they're coming through the wall to get me. My mum called the doctor on several occasions, which I think some parents do, and they thought maybe I had a high fever. There's never anything wrong with me, but the doctor I think they were called on 4 occasions through probably a year or so. One occasion, the doctor did ask my mother, was there any insanity in the family? So that's just the first example, that was 1964. So even from then, they were thinking, if you see anything abnormal, there's something insane about you or something like that. So this hasn't changed, 50 years later, they're still saying the same thing. So that quite surprised me. So that was the first thing. Had all those experiences then. The next main other thing I remember, I was about 9. A friend and I, we used to go down to the field on our corner to comb the dog. She had a big wolf dog. We used to comb it and the hair was everywhere. This one day we went down, and I'm going to talk about angel hair. It's not, I remember reading it back a long time ago, but you haven't really heard much about it in the last several decades, really. But went down to this field and we noticed this stuff. It was like cobwebs, but the field was fairly flat. It was a playing field, so it was fairly flat. You could see the whole lot of it. It was quite about a couple of acres. This angel hair, it was low on the ground. It was actually like a chemtrail. It was that thick. It was low on the ground, probably about 3 inches off the ground, and it was about a foot thick, I'd say. This was covering the whole field, all the way around the rim of the field. And we could see it. And we jumped in and thought, what the hell is this? It looked like a cloud, first of all. We thought it was a cloud. But we started touching it. It was like cobwebs. And this was like, we were playing in it. It was all over us. And I did a little bit of research as I got older. And this was seen after several of those huge jellyfish sightings that have been seen. And one of the main incidents I read was of, I don't know if you've heard about the 3 secrets of Fatima in 1917 in Portugal, I think it was. These 3 children, if you're not aware, saw visions of the Virgin Mary, and they were given several predictions, and 2 of them were released and the 3rd one wasn't. It's been kept secret in the Vatican. But if you read the other side of the story, people were seeing visions of the Virgin Mary. On the other side of the story, people were seeing UFOs and lights in the sky, and this angel hair was dropping like snow on people, and that's documents on the internet, you can find that. But it was dropping like snow in this whole village, and it was actually sticking to people. They didn't know what it was. But it is like cobwebs, and it's like a candy floss as well, but it will disappear if you stretch it. But that was seen. There was one of those jellyfish UFOs. It's not a physical shape. It's more like a living entity. And I think there's quite several cases being reported of that, and this angel hair has been seen after those. The other various incidents, main one I had after I was about 9 as well, was I woke up one night, I heard all this banging. It was actually the front door was banging. Got up, looked around the house. There was nobody in the house. I was in a family of 9, mother and father, 7 children. I was the oldest. I went around, looked for mum and dad, nobody in the house in darkness, went into all the bedrooms, nobody in the house. I was really scared, so I heard the door banging, and I went downstairs, and the front door was on the latch, and it was banging. And I opened the door, went out into the street, and everything was in darkness, the whole street. There was no lights on or anything. Went out into the street, and looked at this field where I saw the angel hair, and I could see a fire in the distance, just a huge fire. And I ran back up to bed, covered my head, and went to sleep. Next morning, I got up, everything was back to normal. Everyone having breakfast. I came down, asked my mother, where was everybody last night? This happened, and that happened. I came down, there's nobody here. And my mother said, oh, we're all in bed. That was so silly, where would we all go? And I said, I came down, went out in the street, there was a fire over there. And she said, well, there was a fire. Something did blow up, explode over there. It's some gas workplace. It was not a huge explosion, a small little business. It had gone up in flames, and all these gas cylinders had been blowing. So that was what I saw. So that was a real event. That happened. But, where were they? I don't know. And there was just nobody in the house. And it was like something had happened. It felt eerie. It felt quiet, silent. So I don't know if I was in a different reality or something, but the fire was there, that really happened, but I don't know where everybody was, everybody disappeared. So I had various other experiences, sleep paralysis, maybe some ghostly things, but nothing major. This is a country, well, this is not where I live, but this is a similar picture. This is as close as I could find where we were walking home from school, where we saw a triangle UFO one day following us, about 9 as well. I had quite a lot of experience, seems, when I was 9. So it was sort of that area, that kind of area scene. Moved to the UK in 1977. And I met my first boyfriend when I was about 17, I think. When we were 18, both 18, had my first major incident, which was I stayed over at his house one night. His parents were away, and I woke up 3 o'clock in the morning, and to all this noise, everything in the house seemed to be jumping off the floor. It wasn't just rattling, it was literally back doors were slamming. And I woke up and I heard this noise, and my boyfriend was in the bed next to me, freezing cold, shivering, and he actually never recovered from that sort of state. But next day, I woke up, what the hell's happening? So we didn't even talk. He was just in some sort of shock. And I heard this noise. I heard it in my sleep, and it woke me up, and then I heard it for about 30 seconds, and it stopped, and nothing else seemed weird. I just thought it was a poltergeist. What the hell was that? But it transpired the next day. He said he'd seen, he was all incoherent basically, but I managed to understand that he said he saw aliens in the room basically, and they'd cut my stomach open. I was lying on the bed and they were operating on me, and this just freaked him out. He never recovered, and he was eventually hospitalized and diagnosed with severe schizophrenia, but he never changed the story. Even today, he still pops around to my mum's looking for me, and this is like 30 years later, more than that. So he's actually had severe problems all his life, never had a normal life now, never married. And I heard a couple of years ago he's actually, which is quite horrific, he's cut off his tongue. My sister saw him, and he can still speak a little bit, but he said, I'm not allowed to speak, that's why I did it. So obviously that was 30 years ago. He's still having severe problems after that one experience. I moved away then after that, never saw him again, but he could be having more, I don't know where he is. He's still in Birmingham, obviously, where my parents live, and my mother lives in family, and they see him occasionally, but he's still very ill. The next major incident I had probably would be, I got married, husband had sort of connections with intelligence agencies. Father was head of secret intelligence in Syria, and same on his mother's side, her father was head of the secret police in Syria. So they were actually, this is a legacy that my daughter would have had, they're responsible for this regime now in Syria, which wasn't a nice legacy to have, really. I didn't see anything really suspicious during the time. I knew my father-in-law was a multi-spy, but I found that quite exciting. I wasn't into conspiracies as such then. But I thought we were married within 2 weeks of meeting. The day I met him was totally strange as well. I wasn't meant to be going where I was going, and he wasn't meant to be going. He's told me now, recently at my daughter's funeral, that he felt the same. He wasn't meant to be there either. So he thinks it's even orchestrated by his father as well. And his father, oddly enough, was best friends with Henry Kissinger. He was a family friend, so they would see him all the time in the house, and they were having secret meetings. He was passing on information. I don't know what information he was passing on, but it was to do with what's going on today, I'm sure. On the mother's side, her brother lives in Germany. His job during the 60s and 70s was working for the CIA and getting scientists out of East Berlin into West Berlin. And these were Russian scientists that were working on secret technology and all this mind control stuff that we're seeing today. And I don't know if that's why we got married or if I'm involved in that way. I don't know. We're still trying to find out. And my ex-husband now, we divorced in 1998 when I had this main experience, missing time. I'll go through that in a minute. But he's even thinking it's very suspicious now, and he knows his father is, very highly suspect. And he always said, when there's ever a war in Syria, there'll be two people hung in the square. There'll be Hafiz Assad and my father. So that was the respect he had for his father. Really, he knew what he was up to. So, as I said, we had a main experience in 1998. Where this is when my eyes were completely opened and I had no doubts whatsoever what was going on. And what happened was my daughter was 6 at the time. She'd been to bed since 9 o'clock. She woke up, we were watching a movie, it was 10 to 1, screaming her head off hysterically. I ran in to see what was wrong. She thought the building was falling down. She said her bed lifted off the floor and she was above the bed and everything was shaking. She thought the building was an earthquake or something, basically. She screamed. So I said we didn't feel a thing. We were watching a movie, the end of the movie, didn't feel a thing. Went and, she wanted to sleep in my bed. I said, fine. Took her into bed. I told my husband, she's a bit upset. I'll bring her into our bed and try to get her to sleep. So lying in the bed, and the room was in darkness, and just lying there through the crack in the curtain, this laser came in, just got me in the eye. And it didn't hurt. It wasn't to harm me, I don't think, but it was more to get my attention. So I immediately jumped up, looked out the window, and saw this huge, well, it wasn't even, I can't even say it was a craft. It was I don't know if it's an orb. What would you call an orb? A huge, white, glowy ball, I call it. It was like the moon, but it was probably 20, 30 times the size of the moon. The moon was there, and this was here. And I thought, first thing, oh my God, what is this? Ran into my husband, look at this. And he was just acting so weird. He didn't respond. He sort of, or something, I don't even know what he did, I can't remember, but he wasn't interested. I ran back into the bedroom, carried on looking at the window. Oh my God, Gina and myself were looking out, and she remembers exactly what I remember, and he remembers some of it as well. But it was just 1 a.m., what felt like probably less than 2 minutes. It was suddenly 6 a.m. in the morning, and I was still standing at the window, and I had this thought in my head, you watched it for 5 hours, you watched it for 5 hours, you watched it for 5 hours. And that didn't even seem strange to me. I just thought, I watched it for 5 hours. And that was in my mind for a while, until, I don't even know why I didn't even question that. It sounds so silly now. But it was only probably 6 weeks later, I remember, I was at work, and I don't remember anything for that 6 weeks. When I think about it now, it was just, that was the next point I remember. I was at work, and I had to be at work. I was head of finance for a Freemason company, funny enough, and I knew I would have been missed. There's no way I could not have been there for 6 weeks. So obviously I was there doing my job, and everything was done. And I heard some girls talking in the kitchen about a UFO, and when they said that, this memory came back of that night, and I must have calculated it then that it was 6 weeks prior. I couldn't understand how I'd forgotten it. So rushed home to find out my husband, what do you remember? Do you remember this? And he blanked it straight. He said, I remember Gina waking up in some sort of nightmare, but don't remember anything else. But Gina remembered exactly what I remember. And I got the memories back 2 years later, and I do remember I was on the ship for that 5 hours, and I was shown various things. But I've no memories whatsoever of being examined, tested on, like a lot of people say they remember being on tables, things like that. I don't remember anything like that whatsoever, but although I have had wounds and bruises, so I don't know if that's just, blocked. But my memories are more of being walked around and shown things, which, you can, it's too much to go into today, but you can see them on my videos. I'll go on to the next bit. Then my daughter was born. I didn't think this was strange at the time, but I was talking to Joanne the other day. When I was pregnant, actually, the doctors approached me when I was about 2 months pregnant and said I was a perfect candidate for medical research because I was so healthy and so average. So they asked me if I would mind if they went through the pregnancy with me and had a team of doctors and it would help them in the research. And I said, yeah, that's fine. I'll go ahead with that. So it just brings to mind, was this planned from day one? Did they know who we were? Did they know who my daughter was with this, negative blood type? I don't know. But they constantly took blood from me every week when I went, 3 vials of blood. They said my urine was always got sugar in it. They would take the blood and come back and said, no, it's fine. But they constantly took blood every appointment I had. So, and they were using all this high-tech equipment. They said they spent sort of, a couple of £1 million on new scanning equipment that they wanted to use. So I thought, great, at least I would know that my baby was okay and I was being monitored. So I thought that was actually quite good. Didn't see anything suspicious at the time at all. But thinking of it now, how, things are developing and other people's stories, that could have been part of the plan, I don't know. And I'll move on from there. I've done that. Actually, that was the 1998, the missing time. The next main experience I had was 2010. That was actually just a day before my sister died. She'd had cancer for a year due to an attack. That's something to do with the police attacks we've been having as well, but that's another issue there. But this night, my sister had cancer for a year, basically, and it didn't affect her till the last couple of days, and then she said, I need an ambulance. She refused treatment and everything else. We took her into hospital, and I was so upset, and the doctors told me that night that tomorrow, when she goes to sleep, she won't be awake. So I was quite upset, and my mother was praying, everybody was doing their different things, my aunt was doing her crystals. We're all very eclectic and different in our family, so everyone's got their own thing. But my mum says, why did you pray to your aliens? They might help. So I thought, well, I won't pray to them, but I'll ask them. And so I was at the window, had the window open, smoking a cigarette at the window, 3 a.m. And I was asked, I said, well, come on, you've wrecked my life, do something good. You can help my sister. You've got the technology, I'm sure you can do it. So I was talking to them in my head. And then within probably, it was only about 30 seconds, this red light flew across the sky. And the sky was very clear, no clouds, it was a lovely evening. It was in August, 3 o'clock in the morning, so it wasn't dark, it was quite a nice colour. And I thought, well, that was cool. Within another minute, less than a minute even, this ship came over from behind. Normally I see things out that way because I'm on the 4th floor, so I've got a good view. But this came from behind me this way, and it came out to about here, so I could see it, looked up, and it was a huge triangular craft. Absolutely amazing. Well, I did draw a picture of it. I'm not an artist, but I forgot to include it, actually. But this craft, it could not have been one of ours. People say, oh, it must have been one of our little, military ones. There's nothing can compare to what I saw that we have. The technology was just totally out of this world. And I know we have secret technology. People say, oh, we have this secret technology. This was not even, it wouldn't even touch anything we have. And I filmed it, got my phone, filmed it, hanging out the window, looking up. I saw the underside of it. It wasn't a smooth ship. This was full of stuff, lights, things spinning. Oh, it was just amazing. It was just, I cannot even put into words what I saw. It's just too complicated. So I filmed that for 4 minutes, thought, wow, that was absolutely amazing, it was fantastic, it was elate, and I had that memory for 2 years, That's what I saw. That 4 minutes, I filmed. It was great afterwards. I still had a cigarette in my hand, but I don't know where my phone was, funny enough, afterwards. I can't remember picking up my phone. That's another strange thing. But 2 years later, I got the memories back, and I know I was on the ship, and this is when I met these light beings. The memory came back to me suddenly in images, really strange. And this just changed my beliefs and my perceptions, really, because normally the abductions I remember, if I want to call them abductions, I don't know if I want to, that's a term that's been given, so I'll use it. But normally it's you're asleep, wake up, hear a noise, sleep paralysis, and then you see some shapes and lights and scary, and then you don't remember. But this time I was fully wide awake. I remembered the memory. I've got the memory in real time. Took the picture. That's not what happened at all. I remembered when I got the real memories back, I didn't film it. I got a clip, dropped my phone, and I was taken up into the ship. And what I was looking at wasn't the outside of the ship, it was actually the inside, all these lights. So I remember going into the ship, seeing everything. It wasn't cold and clinical like I've heard some people describe. It wasn't just white and curved. It was like a control room. I can't explain it more than that. It was like some sort of control room. And this from I could see, as I was going up into the ship, what I saw was a triangle from before I thought I was in it. It was a triangle, but when I was actually in it, it was a pyramid. I could see it clearly it was a pyramid. But it was sort of, if you imagine a pyramid and you turn it, like stretch it and turn it if it's soft, it was because it was going in spirals as well, but I just knew it was a pyramid. And this was full of lights, controls, everywhere around. I was looking around, I saw everything. And it was just full of technology, full of everything. There was there wasn't a space that hadn't got a light on it or a control. So when I got to the top, I remember I saw there were 5, I call them, well, I've heard people call them light beings, but because they were made of light. They were just pure energy, pure light. They had a shape, they had a head. I didn't see any features whatsoever. They were golden, yellow. I could look at them. They didn't blind me. There were 5 of them. The tallest one was probably about 7 foot. There were various heights, but the tallest one was about 7 foot. And there was a small one as well, I remember, but the others probably about 5-6 feet. But they didn't speak to me. I didn't hear them speak to me, but I felt this love from them, which was... It was just, when I got the memories back, I was crying for about 3 days thinking about this because it was just so emotional and so strong, that this love I felt from them. So that changed my whole outlook on this whole, I don't know what you'd call it, a whole lifetime of experiences, because I've had quite a few negative ones, but that they gave me this message that you're one of us. We love you, we're looking after you, don't worry about anything. And that I think I needed that at that time, because it just filled me with a completely different outlook on what this whole thing's about. I know there are negative aspects, but there are good ones there. Maybe they're I don't know, I can't explain it. I don't know what's going on. Maybe there's different types, loads of different groups, who knows? I was thinking it could have been an expedition from the other side of the planet, and they said, we're doing an expedition to Earth, who wants to come? And it could be that, 20 different types of ETs took this expedition to come to Earth and do their experiments. It could be something like that, because it seems to be so varied and so different for each person that it can't be all the same people doing these things, or the same beings. It just can't be. I don't believe it. So there you go. I think there's various different types there, and I think if you're open to one, maybe the others get a go as well. I don't know. She's a subject. Let's all get in there and have a go or something. So it seems to be something like that. But I'm glad I had the experience that I had with the light beings, because that's what I have in my mind now, and I know that they were good completely. And what I noticed with them, I did remember the face afterwards, not at the time when I saw them, but afterwards, and they weren't greys, or they didn't have huge eyes, but they had lovely brown, warm eyes. They were a bit like animated in a way, but what I saw on the face, I remember the expressions on the faces, and it was more like, it was like sadness and sympathy, and that sort of, it was like they were empathizing and thinking, like I was a poor little, oh, you poor little lost soul. But I didn't feel it was for me. I felt it was for the whole of the planet. This is what I felt. So I just wanted to say that to, let everybody know that there are positive things there, and that was a complete experience. It wasn't a dream, wasn't my imagination. That was real, and they are very positive, and I fully trust them, and I fully believe them, and I think my daughter is with them. I begged them for help, and I think she's with them. A couple of my family have had dreams, and I didn't tell them about this at all, and they've had dreams that she was made of light, and my niece saw her on a ship, and my mother actually spoke to her, and she gave my mother some messages and for me, and it was from a conversation that I'd had just before my daughter died. My mother didn't know anything about it, so I've no doubts in my mind that that was a real message from Gina. And quite a few of the family are getting them now, and I've had some myself as well. So I believe she's not gone, she's still there. So I hang on to that, because I know she's not gone. Go on about implants now. 1963, when I was... actually, it wouldn't be 1963, but 1966. I was 6. I had an object removed from my left leg. My mother was washing me, found a little lump in my leg, took me to the doctor, got it removed, and it actually moved while they were taking it out. It moved 2 inches to the side, so 2 scars on my legs where they removed it. We never told what it was. I was told it was a piece of debris. I wasn't told, actually. My parents were told it was a piece of debris, nothing to worry about, but don't know how it got in there. But it's gone, so that was never really suspicious. It was something that got in her leg, and it's gone. 2010, the next one I had removed was in my right jaw. Just found a little lump on my jaw here. Went to the doctor, sent me to the dentist, and they found this little metal object in my jaw, embedded in my jaw. He did think it was as a result of inadequate dental treatment, but I hadn't had any dental treatment done, so that ruled that one out. So he said we'd have to take it out because it was going to cause problems if it was, underneath my gum sort of thing. So he arranged to take it out, gave me the needle, went to take it out, and he said, oh my God, I can't touch that, it's too dangerous. He said, your nerves are wrapped around this little thing. These things are only that size, so it's even smaller than a grain of rice. So they have the ability to get in your body, tissue grows around it, your body accepts it, and then your nerves seem to attach to it, so automatically. So this is what happened. I had to have the thing out in 2 stages, and eventually he got it out. It was sucked away. I think I assumed he would take it out with the tweezers and drop it in a bowl like they do with bullets. I don't know why I assumed that, but that's what I thought. So I thought, when he does that, I'll have a good look. But he didn't. He sucked it up the thing, and it was gone. So, but I was left paralysed in my face for about 4 months after that. And nobody knew why, because Novocaine should wear off, no other reason. And I had 2 doctors say that. They never came across it before, don't know what it is, wear it out, it'll wear off. Just wait. I waited, and took 4 months. But eventually it came back to normal, I was fine. 2013, just recently, we went to Arizona to the UFO Congress, which was brilliant. While there with Joanne, Miles and Ammach, and did some great interviews there, and it was brilliant. But while we were there, had the opportunity to have some scans done with by Steve Colburn, who's with Dr. Lear, and a colleague of his. I've got some pictures. Actually, I'll go... This one in my eye, I'll go through this first. I woke up one morning, didn't feel a thing, just caught my sight in the mirror, but oh my God. And I didn't have my good camera at the time, I just had my phone, so I took a picture and forgot about it, and then got the other camera out later on, took loads of other pictures. The strange thing about this is, this thing in my eye wasn't there 5 minutes later. It was there, you can see it clearly going in. The picture's very bad because my phone was ridiculous, it was a stupid phone, but it was the only thing I had at the time. My daughter was out with her camera, and when she came back, I took it. But there was a slit, you could see the slit in my eye, and this thing went through. So the next one, this is how my eye was left 10 minutes later, and you can see a bit there where it's healed over instantly, more or less. If you can see the little square there, that's where it was. So this thing went in like it was alive and healed over in it must have been, it was less than half an hour by the time the pictures were all taken, and went to the doctor. He said it was nothing to worry about. It looks like as a result of some eye pressure, or have you been deep sea diving? I said, no. Have you been sneezing really hard? No. How hard would you have to sneeze to burst your blood vessels? I don't know. But that stayed like that for a week or two, I think, 2 weeks, and then it just healed up. But I didn't feel anything, didn't need any eye drops. It wasn't an infection. He just said, leave it and it'll get back, come back to normal, and it's nothing to worry about. That's the slit there, and that's like the metal thing there, and you can see it very clear. It's just that on the original, and this is the only photo I've got left, so that's why it's so bad, and the camera was so bad. I would have, if I had the other camera at that time, it would have been fantastic pictures. But that's the best I have, but at least it shows it's there, and it wasn't there later. This is a clip of the video that we did with Steve Colburn in Arizona, and it's when we had the implants. I had an implant scan, and they found various implants in my body. So I'll just play this here.
So we're here now with the another part of the testing, and this is with Steve Colburn, who's a material scientist. And I'm just going to get Steve to explain a little bit about what that involves. Steve, good morning.
Morning. Nice to be here. First of all, we do a body temperature scan. Abductees tend to run low on body temperature by at least 2 degrees for the most part.
Okay.
And then after that involves an instrument like this, such as they use in the doctor's office, a radiant infrared instrument.
Okay.
And then after that, we do a stud finder scan, a small metal detector scan to try to find implants under the skin. They're especially prevalent in the head, above the ears, back of the neck, and then the third eye area of the forehead.
Right. Well, just before we get on with the actual test itself, Steve, could you tell us a little bit about your work as a material scientist and how you see the correlation between the implants, that technology, and what you're working with?
Well, I'm working on carbon nanotube materials right now, and it's kind of... It was kind of a synchronicity because it turns out that when you analyze these implants, they contain carbon nanotubes, at least a high percentage of them contain carbon nanotubes, and the electronics of these devices appear to be based on networks of semiconducting and metallic carbon nanotubes, and that's something earthly science is working on, but it's beyond our technology right now. They're actually dispersed in the metal. And,
right.
Some of these things are ultra strong as a result too. One we had to cut with a high power laser, and diamond tools wouldn't scratch it.
Wow.
Carbon nanotubes have a lot of amazing properties. They're the world's strongest material, and they can be used for electronics. And the nanoelectronics of the future are going to be made of carbon nanotubes, and it seems like the aliens have already perfected the technology.
Right. Well, on that very interesting note, let's start with the test, Steve. So perhaps you could just tell us what you're going to do first.
We'll do the body temperature scan first. Go back to the back a little bit. There you go. Okay, we got 96.8 degrees, 0.8 Fahrenheit on the forehead. Scan. This is a general radio frequency scanner that scans most of the radio spectrum for just energy output.
Okay. Definitely some movement on that one.
Did you ever have a severe nosebleed when you were about 5, perhaps?
I wouldn't have remembered that far back, but as far as I remember, I've never had a nosebleed. But I'll ask my mother, but I wouldn't remember. Across here, maybe here. Particularly this side, actually.
Right there, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a weak signal there. There?
That was actually picked up on an MRI scan I had because I had a slight accident. And
it's always good getting confirmation.
And probably, is it one of your arms, Marie, as well?
Yeah.
Can we check that, Steve, whilst we're...
Yeah.
And how long ago did you have the MRI scan, Marie?
About 5 years ago. But they said there was something there that needed to be removed because it's actually sitting on a nerve, and it depends. Sometimes I wake up and I can't move, it moves.
Most of these devices are on nerves, and often they hurt even under anesthesia when they're removed.
Yeah.
So
the pain when it hits the nerve, it's unreal because you know, and they're
much more probable in my mind that it really is an implant if it's on a nerve, and you know that.
Yeah. We did some further scans when we got back from the States, and I think we found another 5. So apparently there's one on each shoulder, back of each leg, each side of my head, middle of my head, top of my head, back of my neck, my arm, my knee. I think that's it that we found so far. Maybe there's more, I don't know. What the purpose of these, I don't know. People said they're tracking devices, but maybe one of them is. I can't see all of them being tracking devices, but I think when Miles was doing one of the scans, when I spoke, the one at the top of my head was, the signal went up really high. So whether they're monitoring what you're saying, what you're moving, I don't know, every movement. I mean, why would they be in your shoulders and your legs and your joints? Are they monitoring every single movement? I don't know. And for what purpose? I don't know either. So if anyone has any more information on that, it'd be great, you know. I think, actually, I'll mention something. We did go to visit a doctor in Harley Street to get the one in my arm tested. The others, Steve said, that they're on various nerves and he wouldn't advise removing them, because especially the ones in the brain. And if they're on your nerves, like after I had this one done, I wouldn't touch my face or anything vital like my spine. But I've got one in my arm that seems to be fairly mobile and loose, and I thought, if anything, I'd get that one out. It's the only one I would. We went to get a consultancy done, and the doctor was great. Did as a consultant, and says, you know, the next thing to, if you wanted to go further, would be to get a scan with a view to getting this removed. So I thought I would get it removed because it's the only one, as I said, and they need this information out there to be tested. And I thought I'll get this out and it can be tested, and let's, you know, get some more information, find out what these things are. But the doctor was all up for the scan, said, yeah, we'll do the scan, and then suddenly changed his mind, did a complete backward flip and doesn't want to know, doesn't want to do the scan, and that was the end of that. So I think it's going to be quite difficult to get a scan for something as small as that. It's not justifiable, whereas the GP is concerned, I think, because scans are probably £1,000. So to do it privately, I don't know how that's going to work. If they would do it for something, it's small, it's tiny like a spot, and according to the medical profession, it's just too insignificant to warrant any kind of investigation. But they're on the point of view that there's nothing suspicious, whereas, you know, they're not thinking what we're thinking, basically. So I don't know where that's going to, if that's going to end there. If I'll go further, I'll have to say, you know, after this. But it's too soon to know. But I think I will go further. I will try to get this one out. Whatever I have to do, I will definitely go to get this one out. The next thing Steve did was he did some checking for these alien dyes that are on your body. Another test with various ultraviolet lights that picks up these dyes. He said there's 3 different colours: orange, green and blue, I think, green and yellow, and blue purpley. The orange is a bit rare because it washes off. I think some of them don't wash off for about a month, but the orange washes off quite quick, so that's why it's quite rare. I suppose by the time he does test things, it's worn off most people. But when he tested me, I had some of this orange dye on me, which he said was about 10 days old, and some of the other dye, which obviously is a month old. So he said I had an experience probably 10 days, 2 weeks prior to that, which I've no memory of whatsoever. And this is what's happening now. It used to be, years ago, be sleep paralysis. You're lying in bed, you see some lights, you wake up paralysed, and beings in the room, and you don't remember anything. You're knocked out. Then next day, you know, you wake up. But then I've realised that this could happen any time. This could happen now. We're all sitting here, and they can freeze time, and you know, you come back and you'll still have your coffee in your hand, but it'll be cold maybe. And I've realised this is what's happening, because that when he said 10 days ago, the only reference that I have to that is I was talking to somebody online, and he said I went missing for an hour and 40 minutes, didn't respond, but I've no memory whatsoever. I was real time, didn't feel a thing, didn't feel strange, didn't feel drowsy, didn't feel sick like I used to. So maybe, I don't know, you get used to it as you get older, as you have more experiences, or maybe it's you feel like that at the beginning, but nowadays they could be doing it every 5 minutes and you wouldn't even know. And I think they can do this for years with people as well, and you wouldn't even know. And if the only time you do find out is when you actually see something or you wake up unexpectedly, but I think that's deliberate on their part, and I think they do that on purpose because they could hide this forever and never let you know. That's the technology they have, and that's how they can do it. But so I think it is deliberate that they let you see certain things, and then it opens your eyes, and then you go on this road and looking for things, but it doesn't get you anywhere. You still don't get the answer, so I don't know what the purpose of that is, of them letting you see something. Is it just to frighten you even more? Is it just to... It's to make you aware in a way, but it's not to give you the answers because you don't get them, so I really don't know what the purpose of that is. But I'll just play this clip about the dye. Steve will explain.
Tell us what you think.
Well, it seems like she has several implants, most likely. We have to confirm that by x-rays to make sure that there are really objects there, but something's showing up on the stud finder scans, and it's usually pretty indicative of a metallic object under the skin. She has something here, and at the back of the neck, and possibly something here as well, and the back and the forearm locations.
Okay, I'll switch this off.
Light, completely light proof.
The ordinary black light, the UVA that most people use, does not work nearly as well to reveal these dyes.
From this, we'd say there was a bit of activity going on.
Yeah, probably 10 days to 2 weeks ago, I'd say, based on experience seeing these stains and how they fade.
Yes, because as you said, they don't shower off.
No, not very easily.
Sorry, do you want me to...
Yeah, one more time. This is UVB wavelength. Turn your right. There you go.
Into the back as well, maybe?
Sure.
Got actually some photos, close-ups. That was my arm. So you're looking at this. It's all this light shaded area here. That was my neck. There was actually some purple bits here that Steve never had seen before. It was very unusual. All this bit here was quite dark. He said he's never come across that before. It's all this bit here, I think. All this bit, it did come out quite dark on some of the pictures, so he didn't know what that was. That's just another close-up of what we saw. It's my leg. I was actually quite shocked when I saw this. It's quite horrific, to be honest. Just to know what they're doing. What is it? Steve did say my hands were magnetized as well, whatever that means. I've looked it up. I can't find any information. I don't know what that means, but I did speak to Steve recently, and I said, well, what does it mean? You know, he said it could mean that you've been handling some sort of alien equipment or something. So whatever I'm doing with alien equipment, God only knows. So this is all the dye again. It's all this hole all the way along. Steve, that's another, I'll do it in a minute. Steve did say that some of the dye has some chemical properties, like pharmaceutical properties, and one of the things that he thinks he's found in there is some sort of antidepressant quality. So he was sort of saying, well, maybe is it something that they use to knock you out? He doesn't know. We don't know at this stage, but you know, there's definitely, if we could scrape it, I wouldn't even mind it, scraping off a bit of skin, see if we can get it analysed, but it's impossible, it doesn't come off, and they can't really analyse it, I don't think, unless it's probably analyse it while it's on your body, I don't know, but they can't get a sample of this stuff to analyse it, so God only knows what it is. So that's basically it. So that was something else. I'll move on to this, actually. I'm finished with the implants now, but I will actually go and see about the arm one and try get a scan, and I really want to get that one out and get it analysed, so I'll be on the case. So I'll probably keep you updated of anything that happens. And I just wanted to show you this photograph because it's quite good. I thought it was quite cool. We were doing something over at Belinda Mackenzie's. Ammach were interviewing Lloyd Pye on the Star Child skull, and we're all taking photographs, and I took this picture here, and this little orb in the sky above there, and I didn't notice it till afterwards, but when we took a close-up, I mean, that's what it is. No idea what it is. Wasn't the moon, as you can see. I thought that was quite good, so I just included that because I like it. That's the end of my slides at the moment. So how are we fixed for time, Joanne? Anybody? I've got much time, so I have got a bit to talk about.
Marie, if you let them know what happened to the team before they went to Kayali,
I'm not really sure on the details on that. They were on the way to the Congress, was it? Yeah, Steve Colburn and his team were actually on the way to the Congress, and I think it was they had a longer journey than they anticipated. Was it 3 hours missing or something like that? They're out of the way. It took them 7 hours for a 4-hour journey, something like that. So 4 hours, yeah. So they'd no memory of anything that happened. Do you want to talk about that? I didn't really speak to Steve about that, but I know it was quite interesting because I know they stopped somewhere as well, didn't they? And
I think basically what happened, basically when it was Steve's team, as he went down to the Congress, had a 250-mile drive, of which their truck only accomplished 100 miles, and they lost 4 hours. So they didn't actually arrive till about 9 o'clock that night. And the husband of one of the team members phoned up, where have you been, and all that. And then just to top it all, on the way back, after doing all these scans, they also were abducted, and they were left 100 miles off course. So both two in there, the team, Steve and his team, were abducted as if somebody wanted to make a point. Okay.
What I wanted to go into as well, people are always asking me about the types of beings that I've seen. I've actually seen 4 different types now. First ones I saw, as I said, at the age of 3, were the beings coming out of the wall. They were blonde hair, tall, very beautiful looking. I've heard the expression catwalk models, and that's what they were like. They were absolutely beautiful, blonde hair. There was one lady, 4 men, and they were wearing blue gowns, and they would appear in my room. But thinking about it now, I mean, I was a child, 3 years old, and I'd be hysterical. So why would they do that to children? This is what puzzles me. Why would they put children through this trauma if they're good beings? You know, this has always puzzled me. But I felt they were good. They always looked pleasant. They always looked happy. But I would still be hysterical. So they never tried to calm me down. And you know, I always wondered about that. And another thing I wondered about as well is when we had that experience with my ex-boyfriend when we were 17, 18. He got no help whatsoever. That was, you know, his life was completely ruined. Never married, never had a proper work career. So basically his life was just shattered from that experience. So I find that hard as well. You know, why didn't anybody help him? Where are the good beings to help him? So there's a lot of contradictions in this phenomenon as well, you know, that you can't explain. So, but maybe there is a purpose to all at the end that is good. I don't know, but it just seems to be quite evil sometimes, and very evil sometimes. So whether the same beings doing it, whether it's the military, I know the military are heavily involved. Although I've never seen any military in my experience. I have to say that. I know some people have. I've never seen any military or even a hint of military, except the only military that I get are the helicopters outside. That's all I see visually, but whether they are involved with the implants and all this, I have no idea. They could be. It wouldn't surprise me either way to know that. So that was those beings. The next beings I saw were when I had the other experience in 1998, when I saw the big glowy ship at the missing time. 1 minute I was there, and the next minute I remember there was a blue ball just came out of the ceiling. There were 3 faces in it. I didn't see the bodies, I just saw the faces, but they weren't greys either. I've never seen greys. I know people talk about greys all the time. I've never seen greys. These were more blue, and they had smaller eyes, and they looked very old. They looked ancient. Their skin looked a bit wrinkly, like elephant skin in a way, but like a light blue colour, rather a bit like the slide there, a bit like grey blue, more blue. So they were quite friendly as well. They didn't look evil. They had pleasant faces, and I remember seeing the 3 faces in the ball, and the next thing I knew I was on the ship. I'll go into that in case if anyone hasn't heard it, but that was 1998, the first experience I had, the main one that I remember. Was, no doubt about it, this is real, my God, this is really happening. I remember being on the ship, out of the 5 hours, I probably remember about 5 minutes of it. I remember being on this ship. I was being shown things. I had two beings behind me. I didn't see them. They were standing behind me. But I could feel them, and they were tall. I could feel the presence. And one spoke to me. I was walking. It was in this place which was completely white. Couldn't see a thing. There was nothing else in this room. I couldn't tell the difference between the floors, the walls, and the ceiling. It was just white. It was like being in a dream, I suppose. You're floating, and just in a white place. But these beings were behind me, walking through, and we came to this place where there's all these plants, thousands of plants in really neat rows, going on and on for it seemed like miles. And I heard in my voice, in my head, a voice said, "You can ask 2 questions." So I asked the questions, obviously, about the plants. And I think they said that, so I'd asked about the plants, at that time. And I was told they were for the new planet Earth. And that's what they said, they're for the new planet Earth. That was all. We moved on. And then I saw a lot of people there, in rows as well, like the plants, but there were people. And then they said, "You can ask your second question." And I said, "Well, what are you doing with all these people?" And they were humans. They weren't aliens, ETs. They were all humans, like all these people in the room today, all wearing different clothes. They're, just their own personalities, completely different. But they all seemed to be in a trance, just staring ahead. And I asked, "What's happening? What are you doing with all these people?" And the voice said in my head, and it was a man's voice, and it was English. He was speaking English because I could understand it, and it wasn't a thought. It was a voice. I heard it clearly, and he said they're being categorized. And that was no further information than that. And I've been thinking about that, and I'm wondering, are they categorizing people into these different sections? And maybe they've got different things for different people, I don't know. But it was just a bit strange that they were being shown images, actually. And I think now that they were monitoring people's emotions according to the images they were seeing. And I don't know I didn't see all the images. The images I saw was of the earth being destroyed and turning into something horrible and grey and dead. That's what I saw. But I don't know what the other images people had been seeing prior to me going there, or what they were seeing. So they could have been shown all sorts of things, which I've been hearing now, that there's a lot of trauma for people and a lot of disgusting perversion things. Never happened to me, but I'm hearing this from other people now. So maybe this is what they're doing. They're monitoring people to see who's what and who's got what thoughts and who's what, and they're putting them into categories. And those people maybe there's something for them. I don't know what's in store for people. But it doesn't seem, a lot of it does seem to be quite negative. But I'm sure that there are positive things out there that are going to come through, filter through, and it's already happening, although you can't see it, but there are subtle things happening, and it is going to filter out and pan out. And I think, very soon, things are going to change. Things are going to change. People are becoming more aware, and I hope by, talking here today and everybody else, and even if you can take a little bit from each person, that will open your eyes and become more aware of what is happening, and maybe listen to children as well, if any of you have any children, because children are being targeted. There's no doubts about that whatsoever, and this is where it starts. And when I found out about these implants, my first reaction was a bit shocked, but then it was anger, and it was anger at being not shunted as such, but I wasn't really ignored, but not taken seriously since I was a child. And that's 50 years of information and technology that I knew about years ago that's just coming out now. And it's not just me. This happens to a lot of people, that they knew things long before we were meant to. So this information, if you're not listening to your children and bringing this out, this information is just being suppressed and it's not coming out. So I'm just thinking, if we had, I had have got my word out then, what would the world be like if everybody was listened to, and all the children who had these experiences 50 years ago, if they got their information out, where would we be today? So this is what we have to start doing, I think, is listening to the children and taking note of what they're saying and getting the information out, because this is what we need to do to get things forward. How am I for time?
3 minutes.
I just wanted to add what everybody else has added probably as well about the media, how they treat this thing as a joke. I just find the way they treat it as a joke is a joke in itself. It's absolutely ridiculous how I just can't comprehend when you see something outside your reality. What you're told is your reality. You're called crazy. You're not called anything else. You're called crazy. You're mental case. You're on drugs. You know, this is. We've got to get rid of this, and this is what we all need to work on to get this. We're not crazy. I'm definitely not crazy. I've had MRI scans. I satisfied the doctors myself because I did need sleeping pills at one stage because I wasn't sleeping. They want to know why you want sleeping pills. I told them. I mentioned it briefly. I'm having ET experiences, and they said, "Oh, well, maybe you've got epilepsy." And I said, "No, I haven't got epilepsy." So they asked me, "Do you want to get a brain scan?" I said, "Yeah, I'll get a scan to satisfy." So I can say, I've had a brain scan, I've had checks for epilepsy, I've seen a psychiatrist, I'm clear on everything. Nobody can find anything wrong with me because there's nothing wrong with me. I'm a normal person that's having abnormal experiences, that's all I can say. And we're not mad. So again, thank you very much everybody for coming and taking the time to listen to us all today. We all have something to say, and every piece of information is important from everybody that has something to say. So thank you very much.
So everybody, we're going to take 20-minute, half an hour break now. Coffee and tea is in the hall there, and we'll be coming back to listen to Sarah Goodley, talking about child experiences, which goes very nicely with not only our launch of Ammach checks, but also what Marie has just been speaking of, and we'll be speaking with Kate as well, her sister. So that's it for the minute. If you want to have a look at those little sculptures.
House in darkness, went into all the bedrooms, nobody in the house. I was really scared, so I heard the door banging, and I went downstairs, and the front door was on the latch, and it was banging. And I opened the door, went out into the street, and everything was in darkness, the whole street. There was no lights on or anything. Went out into the street and looked at this field where I saw the angel hair, and I could see a fire in the distance, just a huge fire. And I ran back up to bed, covered my head, and went to sleep. Next morning, I got up, everything was back to normal. Everyone having breakfast. I came down, asked my mother, "Where was everybody last night? This happened and that happened." I came down, there's nobody here. And my mother said, "Oh, we're all in bed. That was so silly. Where would we all go?" And I said, "I came down, went out in the street, there was a fire over there." And she said, "Well, there was a fire. Something did blow up, explode over there. It's some gas workplace. It was not a huge explosion, a small little business. It had gone up in flames and all these gas cylinders had been blowing." So that was what I saw. So that was a real event. That happened. But, where were they? I don't know. And there was just nobody in the house. And it was like something had happened. It felt eerie. It felt quiet, silent. So I don't know if I was in a different reality or something, but the fire was there, that really happened, but I don't know where everybody was, everybody disappeared. So I had various other experiences, sleep paralysis, maybe some ghostly things, but nothing major. This is a country, well, this is not where I live, but this is a similar picture. This is as close as I could find where we were walking home from school, where we saw a triangle UFO one day following us, about 9 as well. I had quite a lot of experience, it seems, when I was 9. So it was sort of that area, that kind of area scene. Moved to the UK in 1977. was covering the whole field, all the way around the rim of the field. And we could see it. And we jumped in and thought, what the hell is this? It looked like a cloud, first of all. We thought it was a cloud. But we started touching it. It was like cobwebs. And this was like, we were playing in it. It was all over us. And I did a little bit of research as I got older. And this was seen after several of those huge jellyfish sightings that have been seen. And one of the main incidents I read was of, I don't know if you've heard about the 3 Secrets of Fatima in 1917 in Portugal, I think it was. These 3 children, if you're not aware, saw visions of the Virgin Mary, and they were given several predictions, and 2 of them were released and the 3rd one wasn't. It's been kept secret in the Vatican. But if you read the other side of the story, people were seeing visions of the Virgin Mary. On the other side of the story, people were seeing UFOs and lights in the sky, and this angel hair was dropping like snow on people, and that's documents on the internet, you can find that. But it was dropping like snow in this whole village, and it was actually sticking to people. They didn't know what it was. But it is like cobwebs, and it's like a candy floss as well, but it will disappear if you stretch it. But that was seen. There was one of those jellyfish UFOs. It's not a physical shape. It's more like a living entity. And I think there's quite several cases being reported of that. And this angel hair has been seen after those. The other various incidents, main one I had after that was about 9 as well, was I woke up one night, I heard all this banging. It was actually the front door was banging. Got up, looked around the house. There was nobody in the house. I was in a family of 9, mother and father, 7 children. I was the oldest. I went around, looked for my mum and dad, nobody in the
And that is, this conference is actually dedicated to Gina, her daughter. Gina died on November the 2nd, 2012. And a lot of the circumstances around her leaving this planet, or this dimension, are somewhat embroiled in the ET issue. Marie may choose not to go into that, but I just want you to know that this is dedicated to Gina. So I'm going to say thank you very much to Marie. I'm going to just load her presentation. Bear with us a second, folks.
I'm really happy to be able to pass on the information I have and talk about my experiences. So thank you very much for all listening. I'm going to go through things briefly, my experiences, because obviously there's not enough time trying to squeeze everything, condense everything into an hour. It's really difficult, and I think we're all having the same problem. So I have got several videos online on the Ammach site and Megawatts 1066. So I'll go through things briefly, and if you haven't seen them already, they are on there, so you can find out more. I'll just go through things briefly. So the first thing I'm going to go through is Ireland, my early years. The first time I remember experiences, I was age 3. I saw beings coming out of the wall constantly, screaming at night, and I'd be hysterical. My parents didn't believe me, basically. I was telling people this. I was telling my family. But, you're told, don't be silly, go to bed, there's nothing there. But I was seeing beings they were the beings with the long blonde hair and dressed in blue. There was 5 of them. There's always 5 of them, 4 men and 1 woman. And I had various experiences with those, but never had any other information, just that they were coming through the wall to get me. I always said, they're coming through the wall to get me. My mum called the doctor on several occasions, which I think some parents do, and they thought maybe I had a high fever. There's never anything wrong with me, but the doctor, I think they were called on 4 occasions through probably a year or so. One occasion, the doctor did ask my mother, was there any insanity in the family? So that's just the first example, that was 1964. So even from then, they were thinking, if you see anything abnormal, there's something insane about you or something like that. So this hasn't changed. 50 years later, they're still saying the same thing. So that quite surprised me. So that was the first thing. had all those experiences then. The next main other thing I remember, I was about 9. A friend and I, we used to go down to the field on our corner to comb the dog. She had a big wolf dog. We used to comb it and the hair was everywhere. This one day we went down, and I'm going to talk about angel hair. It's not, I remember reading it back a long time ago, but you haven't really heard much about it in the last several decades, really. But went down to this field and we noticed this stuff. It was like cobwebs, but the field was fairly flat. It was a playing field, so it was fairly flat. You could see the whole lot of it. It was quite about a couple of acres. This angel hair, it was low on the ground. It was actually like a chemtrail. It was that thick. It was low on the ground, probably about 3 inches off the ground, and it was about a foot thick, I'd say. And I met my first boyfriend when I was about 17, I think. When we were 18, both 18, had my first major incident, which was I stayed over at his house one night. His parents were away, and woke up 3 o'clock in the morning, and through all this noise, everything in the house seemed to be jumping off the floor. It wasn't just rattling, it was literally back doors were slamming. And I woke up and I heard this noise, and my boyfriend was in the bed next to me, freezing cold, shivering, and he actually never recovered from that sort of state. But next day, I mean, I woke up, what the hell's happening? So he didn't even talk. He was just in some sort of shock. And I heard this noise. I heard it in my sleep and it woke me up, and then I heard it for about 30 seconds and it stopped, and nothing else seemed weird. I just thought it was a poltergeist. What the hell was that? But it transpired the next day. He said he'd seen, he was all incoherent basically, but I managed to understand that he said he saw aliens in the room basically, and they'd cut my stomach open. I was lying on the bed and they were operating on me, and this just freaked him out. He never recovered, and he was eventually hospitalised and diagnosed with severe schizophrenia, but he never changed the story. Even today, he still pops around to my mum's looking for me, and this is like 30 years later, more than that. So he's actually had severe problems all his life, never had a normal life now, never married. And I heard a couple of years ago he's actually, which is quite horrific, he's cut off his tongue. My sister saw him, and he can still speak a little bit, but he said, I'm not allowed to speak, that's why I did it. So obviously that was 30 years ago. He's still having severe problems after that one experience. I moved away then after that, never saw him again, but he